Welcome to another video tutorial where we'll be looking at the concepts redirection and filters in Shell. Apart from looking at this concept, I'll also be sharing two things that has helped me a lot, and one of them is actually making a directory and seeding into that directory with just one command, because I'm always fond of this mistake of creating a directory and not actually seeding into my directory, and at the end of the day I get errors because I wasn't working in the right directory. So I'm going to be showing us how to make a directory and seed into it with just one command. And then I'm also going to be showing us how to validate your answers in Shell without using the checker. And this has worked for me 98% of the times. So do well to stay tuned, and I'm sure you will benefit a lot from this tutorial. Let's delve straight into the action. I'm using my PowerShell here, but of course you could decide to use your web terminal, your sandbox, you could decide to use your Vagrant or any other terminal that is comfortable for you. But I am using my PowerShell, and I've already copied my SSH key and my password to my PowerShell so that I can gain access to my web terminal from my system here. As you can see, I already have my ALX System Engineering DevOps folder, and that is the folder where you have this project taken from. So what we want to do is to look at the tags. We are asked to create a directory named 0x02 shell redirections, and then from your tag 0 you are going to be creating numerous files. So we are going to walk through these processes together. Let's get right into it. First off, I want to make the directory ALX 0x02, but I'll do that first by seeding into ALX systems. I've just seeded into ALX systems, system engineering DevOps, and then I'm going to create a directory. So ls first, I can see I don't have this directory 0x02, and so I'm actually going to be showing us the first tip that has helped me a lot, and that is to actually make the directory and seed into it with just one command. So this is how to do it here. Make directory 0x02 -shell underscore redirections and space and cd This is exactly how it's done. So with this command, let's look at it. Make directory 0x02 shell redirections. Now if I press enter here to create this directory, but I want to seed into this directory and create the directory with a simple command. So I'm just going to use my and sign twice here and cd the $sign and an underscore. That's if I enter, I would simply see that it has created the directory and I'm already in the directory. So after creating this directory with this command, I don't have to reseed into the directory. Most times, personally, after creating the directory, I would forget to seed into the right working directory and it will give me issues later on. So this command has actually helped me a lot. I hope it would help you, and if you're also having the same problems like I do have, which is to forget to seed into the right directory, please start using this command and it surely would help you. It would help you do your project faster and you will encounter less errors. So for our tag 0, we've done the first thing, which is to create this directory. If you look at your assignment, you're asked to also make a README. So you can make your README file with many ways. So I'm just going to use VI to create my README file. And of course, you are supposed to write details of what each task is all about. You can see the specific instructions on your intranet. So please do well to check it out. But here, I will just use some simple text like hello as my README. Please do not use hello as your README. You want to create a README that explains in detail about your project. After creating a README file, the next thing I'm going to do, of course, if I ls, you can see readme.md here. But the next thing I'm going to do is straight to my tag 0. And for our tag 0, we have to create a file 0 hello underscore world. This is the file we are to create. So I'm going to create mine with vi. Hit enter. Here we go. I'm in my vi environment. And let's look at the question. Write a script that prints hello world, followed by a new line to the standard output. So basically, if you've gone through your resources, you should see that to print out something in shell, all you have to do is echo and what you actually want to print out. So for this case, we want to print out hello world. And so it's so simple. We are just going to write hello and world. Echo is to print it out. Hello world. Print this out. Just like that, we are done. But I'm forgetting something. Please do not forget that. And that is actually our first line. And our first line must start with the bin bash command. So let me go to where I copied it from, where I've already copied it. So I just paste it from there. My bin bash. Here we go. So I'm going to paste it on my first line here. And this is it. Just like this, I'm done with the first question. Just like this, I'm done with the first question. And I just saved and quit. To save and quit, you already know if you've been working with VI. So you can see the file here, 0 hello world. I don't need to push this and go and check my code. Doing that would be so strenuous because we have more than 20 tags for this project. You don't want to push your code 20 different times checking. So all I'm going to do is finish up all my mandatory tags and then check my code once. And stay tuned. I would also be showing us how to validate your answers even without pushing to GitHub or using the checker. So stay tuned and I'll surely be doing that as we go forward. The next thing we want to do is to write to go to the second task. Here we go. Confused underscore smiley. Write a script that displays a confused smiley. Okay, so that should be pretty simple. I'm in my VI environment now. Remember, always your first line should always have the bin bash. And then I'm going to echo as usual to print out anything on shell, any script on shell you want to print out or display. You have to use the echo to do just that. So this is the command it asks to display the confused smiley or the confused emoji. So I'm just going to copy it out since it's already there in the intranet. I'm just going to copy out what they said we should do, and I'm going to paste it here just as I've done, and cover my quotation. So just like this, I've actually written a script that would print out a confused emoji or a confused smiley. Now I would save and quit. So this is the answer, the workflow for the second question. I've saved, I've quitted. If I ls, I can see I have 0 hello world, 1 confused smiley, and then readme.md. You could decide to do the strenuous pattern by checking your code every time, but I chose not to use that pattern. So I would go to the next task, and that is to hello file. So vi space 2 hyphen hello file. Press enter. It has created the file in vi for me. And what is the task here? Display the contents of the etc slash passwd. So let's just say it's password. So how do you display the content of a file? This is what is in my head right now. How do I display the contents of a file? First, even without knowing how to display content of a file, for any question, you already know what should be in your first line, and that is the bin bash. So I'm going to put that there, bin bash. And for our second command, here's where I'm thinking, what do I use to display the content of a file in shell? And I think that's very simple. It is the cat command, cat command. And so we are displaying the file, we are displaying its contents actually in the etc folder, and then the file is passwd. So all I have to do to display the content of this file is to write cat and then the file path. And this is the file path. This is the command to display the contents of any file in Linux. Just like that, I'm actually done with this command. I'm actually done with this task, and that is my task 3. We have it here as task 2, but because we are counting from 0, these are third task for the day. So if you notice, the questions of task 2 and task 3 are very similar. Here's what I mean. I'm creating the file. So in your case, you could, because of time, you may decide not to type this and just copy the files, paste them here, and open them. But I'm going to hand type every single file we are going to create. and I'll open them in VI. That's the test editor I prefer using. So look at the question of task 3. It says display the content of etc password and etc host. So we are just doing the same thing we basically did in the previous tasks, but this time we are going to do it for 2 directories and 2 files. So this etc here is a directory, and then there's this pass wd, not password. You want to be really careful of these typographical errors to avoid mistakes, to avoid errors. So this is it. They said we should display the command to list out the contents of these 2 files. And so all we have to do is just to list out the 2 files, and then we already know cat is the command to display the content of any file. So just like this, we are done. Now I'm trying to save it so I can quit. And I've saved and I've quitted. If I do ls here, I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 files. And yes, it shows I'm actually progressing. So I move on to the 4th question that says display the last 10 lines of pass wd in the directory etc. So first I'm going to create the file, and the file is for-last lines. For-last lines. First off, I'm going to put my bin bash, and then here says we should display the contents of the last 10 lines of etc. etc is the directory, and then pass wd is the file. So how do I do this? Assuming I've gone through my resources, although the command to actually display the last 10 lines and the first 10 lines are there in our resource, but assume I have read through the resources, but I can't seem to find the answer to this. How do I search externally? Well, that's pretty simple. You can simply go to your Chrome and search the command to display last lines, or the command to actually display first line. So I can just search command to display the last line of a file in Linux, and I can see it here. You see, after giving this specific command on Google, I can see it, the tail option. The tail option is going to print the last few lines, few number of lines. It's actually 10 lines by default of a certain file. So simply using the tail option, I can be able to print about the last 10 lines of any file by default. You see, so just with this, without actually searching and scrolling through the whole internet, I can actually get my answer. So always make sure you are very specific about your Google search, and it could help you get your answers. But how do I validate if this answer I got is correct? Because sometimes the answers you get from the internet may not exactly be what you need at that time. So this is where I said I'm going to actually show us how to do that. So what's the name of the file? The name of the file is PSW. So I'm not so sure. Assuming I'm not so sure. So I just decide to do it this way. There's a way I can know if I would be correct or not. Before saving and quitting this, assuming I'm not so sure, if you are sure, you can just go ahead and do this. Save and quit. But let's say I'm not so sure and I want to be sure that this is actually the correct answer without using the checker. This is what I can do. I can open another terminal in my computer. So I've opened my git bash here, as you can see, and I'm going to list out the contents. Let me see some files that I have. So I have a file called fuel here. I have a file called fuel. So this is what I'm going to do to actually confirm if this thing works exactly. I'm going to do tail fuel. So remember, that's what we did here. Tail, the directory, and then the file. So I just did tail and then the file and press enter. And guess what? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 files listed. By default, it's going to produce 9 for you. 9 files, and that's okay. It doesn't return an error. So you can see it just listed out the files. Now, if I want to be very specific, I could give it a definite value using the tail -n and then 10, because I want it to list out the 10 lines. And I'm going to write the file name and press enter. And yes, it specifically gave me what I'm looking for. So I'm now confident that this is actually the real command, because when I did this with a file I have, it really did print out the last 10 lines for me. So I'm going to come here now and make the little adjustments. So specifically, I'm going to use the -n and write out its 10 lines that it's requested for. So tail -n 10, and then this is the directory etc, and this is the file pass wd. So just like this, I'm done with this answer. I am now very confident that except for typographical errors, my checker will not fail me. So this is how you can always validate your files using your computer. Any command, you can always validate it. By ls, I can see I have my last lines here, I have my 2 files, I have all the files I've created here. So we'll keep going forward. And the question of number 4 and tax 5 are actually almost the same thing. So first lines, I've created the file in vi, and then I'm going to remember your first command. I'm going to copy that and paste it. And then the next thing I'll do is look at the question. It says display the first 10 lines of the file pass wd in the directory etc. I think it's very simple from here. How do I display a file in shell? I simply use the command head. Once again, if you don't know it, just come to your Chrome tab and ask a very simple specific question. For example, here you see command to display the last line of a file in Linux. So assuming I don't know the command to display the first line, I just do command to display the first line of a file in Linux. Press enter and it's going to give me the exact command. Now, if I don't see it here, I could scroll down a little and I can see it here. I can see the command I'm looking for here. Now, if it doesn't appear on this page, on Google's first page, I can simply open any of the links that come up, any of the links that Google actually produce in their search result. I can simply open it and try to check if they have the answer I'm looking for. But I've already seen the answer here on Google's own page, where it's displayed the various answers different websites give. So this is the command head. So in Linux, the command head actually helps us display the first lines of any file. So to display the last line is we use the command tail. To display the first line, we use the command head. The questions are similar, so we'll just do the same thing we did the last time here. So I'm going to write the directory and the file, and you can see it's head-n10. Now, if I want to validate this to be sure I'm correct, all I have to do here is come here. This is my file, and I'll just do head, press enter, and here I can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you see it's very correct. Now I've just validated whether this command that I wrote here is actually correct, and yes, it is correct. So even without using the checker, I can be very confident that my command is going to be correct. Next thing I'm going to do is save my file and quit here. So let's keep going. We're in task 6 now, and task 6 says we should write a script that displays the third line of the file. Okay, so for our task 4 and task 5, we've actually been displaying last 10 lines and then first 10 lines. But for our task 6, we have to display a specific line number. So let's see how we fix that problem. third_line. I'm creating the file now in VI. So it's created. Going to always remember your first line should contain your bin bash. So I pasted that, and then so I've been asked to display only the third line. So how do I fix this? Well, it's pretty simple. So I'm just going to do head -n, and then what's the name of the file? IACCA, and I'm going to tail -n plus 3. Okay, so that's the third line. This 3 here actually represents its third line. Now, how am I sure this command is going to work? How am I sure this command is actually the correct one? How can I validate if this would work without using my checker? If you have to use your checker every time to know whether you're correct or wrong, then you may actually have to think twice. You should have a rough idea if you're actually correct or wrong without using your checker. And so this is what you can do, as I've explained before, using your terminal. How? So this same command here, let's try to run it on one of our local files and see if it's actually going to print out the third line for us, or it's going to throw an error. So I have a file called fill in my computer, and that's the file I'm using. In your own case, you could create any file and add different lines there so that you can do this validation. So the same command I wrote here is what I've written here to actually check if it's going to throw an error for me or it's actually going to validate it. After writing this, I'm going to press enter, and you can see it threw an error. It actually threw an error for me. And so this is why it's very important you actually validate. Invalid number of lines. So let's go again and fix our error this time. Let's go and fix our error. So our file once again is fill as the name of the file. And let's try to read the error so that we'll see how to fix it. Invalid number of lines, fill. So it's saying here, I did not specify the number of lines. You see where the error came from? So this is it. I'm supposed to specify my number of lines, and that's 3. Then I'll write fill. And then I'll do the same thing for the tail. -n plus 3. And press enter this time. And oh yeah, no error was thrown. Instead, it printed out the right command for us. What if I actually decide to stick with only this? You can see it printed out the first 3 commands here. It did not print out a single line 3. So for it to print out a single line 3, I have to use the head and the tail together to actually put these 2 commands together. Press enter, and it's going to print out a single line, and that single line is the third line. So with this now, I've been able to validate that this answer here is wrong. You see, but if I had used the checker, I would probably have to git add, git commit, and then git push, and at the end of the day, the checker is going to say it's wrong. I'm going to start the process all over again. That could be really strenuous and time consuming. So I hope you've learned how to validate your answers. That is, if you have not already been doing that, you can validate your answers using this method. I hope this would really be helpful now and in the future. So I'm going to fix it now, and yes, at this point it's correct. So what it was lacking before was the specific value in the head 3, just as I added the specific value here in the tail 3. You may also decide to remove the plus sign. I think it will still work, but for me, I'm going to leave the plus sign there. I've saved and I've quitted, and that's that for tax 6, which is technically tax 7 because we started counting from 0. Because of time, it would be really strenuous for me to go through the explanation of each and every command line and actually try to validate all the answers. But I hope that with these 6 examples we've done from tax 0 to tax 6, which is technically 7 examples we've done, you've been able to learn how you can validate your work, how you can check if what you're doing is correct or not without using the checker. If you have, please do let me know in the comments below. If it's not clear, also tell me in the comments below any part that was not clear to you. So for some of the next tasks, I'm just going to simply run through them because of time. So for our task 7, we are asked to create the 7 FILE, and I made a mistake here. So I'm going to clear first for ls vi 7 file. Okay, so now that's correct. I must make sure I paste my bin bash. So let me just run through the command. You could always check to validate it. And if you don't understand how we came to some certain answers, even after validating, you can always reach out. Here we go. This is actually the answer to this file. We are going to echo print out best school and then follow the exact command they give us, and just like that, if we enter, we should be done with that. So let me go to file 8 quickly. File 8. So I'm trying to increase the pace at which I do this work because of our time. We have a whole lot of questions to answer for a limited time. So the question of tax 8 said we should save current state of directory. So you could go through the question at your own time and do well to try to see if you understand the solution that I write here. And so yes, I think this should work. So the next task is vi9. Duplicate the last line, which is another very simple task. So I'm going to duplicate. So one thing you can do to make yours faster is actually to copy all the file names and just paste them rather than type it the way I'm doing, so you could be faster. duplicate the last line, and to duplicate the last line, first off, I'm going to go get my bin batch. So I'm going to copy it, paste it in the first line. I'm going to write the answer to duplicate the last line, which is actually tail, because it has to do with last line. So I have to see the last line first, and then one, since it's only one line we're looking at, I'm going to duplicate it now. So it's not going to override what we have, but it's going to duplicate it. Resource, this command should not look strange to you at all, because it was carefully explained in one of the resources. So I'm going to hit enter and I should be done. So question 10. VI 10. No more JavaScript. 10. No more JS. And so the first thing I want to do is to actually, as usual, copy this, paste it. So if you have a better way, an easier way of doing these things that could make it very quick for all of us, please do well to drop it in the comments below, or you could reach out to our community of peers either on Slack or our WhatsApp platform and let us know about it. Would be very, very, very excited to learn from your own experience. So if this command looks strange, you want to look at your resources, especially, I really cannot get the exact resource. I think the second resource of today, I think it helped me a whole lot in most of these projects. Second resource of today. The three were very helpful, but I think especially the second resource of today was exceptionally helpful. So I'm going to ls, and I have my number 10 here and every other file. So I'm simply going to go to number 11, and number 11 has the file name directories. So I'm going to write it and as usual, my first line would be the bin batch. Paste it, and then my second line is where I'll write the answer. So I'll look at the question, and because of time, that's why I'm not reading out all the questions and elaborating on it. But of course, I've done that in the past. So you want to go back to this video, especially the first 6 questions, and try to see that you really did understand the method I use, or you probably have a better method. So you could make things easy for all of us. We have our number 12, which has the name newest underscore files. Newest underscore files, enter, inserts as usual, bin bash, and then ls dash t1. So even after completing this project, you want to still take your time to look at why the answers are what they are. For example, if you look at this number 12 question, it simply says create a script that displays the 10 newest files in the current directory. So the directory is head. No, the directory is not head. We are already in the directory. So what we are doing now is display the 10 newest files. So that's why we have our head here and then 10. So we are going to be listing out about 10 files, and then we are going to give it the value, the newest files. That's what this command will actually help us do. So it will help us list out the newest files that were added, and then there are about 10 of them. So we'll be listing them from the top, the head. That's what this command does. So let's move on to task 13. It has unique. So as usual, we're going to have our bin dash bash first off, and then being unique. So you could take your time to read the question and all. Let's just get straight to it. We are going to use the method sort to actually fix this. Being unique, and just like that. Let's go to 14. Please, if the pace is too high, you can always take your time to pause these videos. Try to understand why each answer has what it has. And you could also reach out to the community on WhatsApp or Slack and ask questions, and your peers would definitely do their best to answer you. I've actually benefited a lot from asking questions, and I'm sure you too will. So we're going to use the grep method. Grep helps us to read. So you could just do a quick search on the grep method, but it's clearly stated in one of our resources what it does here. So if you've gone through the resources, then all these files should not be actually looking like jargon. It should not actually look so strange to you to see what we have here. So we are going to go to 15, count that word. So I advise you, if you have not already gone through the resources, please do that. Count that word. Insert, as usual, our first line is bin bash. So we are in actually 16 now. What's next? And so once again, any of these commands you don't really understand, would reach out for detailed explanation. Maybe bash again. Pasted. So what's next? We keep going. So you could notice that for some time we've actually been using for this series of questions, we've been using the grep command. So it would make sense if you take time to look at what the grep command is all about. I think we should just briefly do that together. So grep command in Linux. It's actually in your directory. It's actually in your resource, but then you could also decide to search it out for on Google, on other popular search engines, and you can see a definition here. But look at it. Grep is a Linux command used to search for a string of characters in a specified file. So look at the questions we've been asking that has actually led us to using the grep command. They actually have to do with searching for a string of characters in a file. So we are not listing anymore. That's why we are not using the ls command. We're not actually trying to read the first 10 lines using the head or tail command. We're now searching for a string of characters. So you want to do well to take time to understand this concept as much as you can, as they would be helpful. So the question of 17, the file is hide this word. Hide this word. Okay, so I copy it again. And here we go. So I want to hide a particular word, a string of character in a file, and actually have to use the grep command once again. Because of time, we don't want to make the tutorial too long and boring. So that's why I'm trying to rush through these commands. Of course, we'll always have peer learning days where we can explain details, ask questions, and get answers, share knowledge, and all of that. So if I list now, I can see everything I've created. 15, 16, 17. So I'm going to go to file number 18 now. That has the file name should be later only. here we go. Yes. Okay, that's it. And 19. What's the name of the 19 file? 19 A to Z. Okay. AZ. Okay, so I'm going to that's it. So TRO A Z, then all of that. We have 20 Ayago. And CRO. So we are now using the command CRO. And for detailed explanation on what it does, you could simply go back to your resource, especially the second resource. You'd be able to help explain that to the 21. Reverse, which is actually one of the easiest okay, it's right. This computer was lagging for a few seconds. So we are going reverse. Basically, we're going back, and the command to reverse is so simple. You can see it here, REV. This is just a simple command to reverse. The question says we should reverse. So one thing that helps is break your questions down into the smallest components you can, so that it doesn't look so overwhelming. You can see it. What scripts reverse its inputs? So I don't have to start thinking, what do they mean by what scripts? What do they mean by inputs? They are simply saying, how do you go back? How do you reverse? How do you turn the input of a particular script upside down? And it's simple, just using the arrow EV. So once again, for detailed explanation, you could always reach out to the community on Slack or WhatsApp, and we'll be very, very, very happy to share our knowledge and also to learn from you. I've actually gotten a few corrections and a few tips to actually work faster and better from other peers, and I thank you so much for that. I'm really grateful. 22 users and homes. So 22 actually has a question that helps us cut in, find all empty files and directories. Okay, so let's look at how we can do that. It's a little technical, and we have to really be careful here. Okay, so let's see. I think this should do it. So the file is in etc PASSWD SORT sort, and there we go. I think that's it. So I have the full 22 questions, mandatory questions here, and I've actually not done something. I've not made the files executable, so I'm going to chmod u plus x. And if you follow the last tutorial, I did talk about how we can simply do that in one command. So as I press the first digits or name of the file, I'm going to press tab on my keyboard and the rest wordings of the files will appear. So tab helps to autocomplete it. If you have more questions about how to change mode and make all your files executable in one command, you could check out my last video. I did explain it there, exactly what I'm doing here. Of course, you could decide to use the long method of for every file you create, you are going to make it executable and push to git sub and then check your code just to make sure you are correct and don't have any errors. But if you actually use the method, to validate, which I did talk about, you should be just fine. So I've actually executed all the files with a single command, and you can see all the files are now executable. Okay, we missed the file number 9. So let's go ahead and execute number 9, or else we are going to have errors. So 9, and there we go. That's all. So the next thing I want to do is git add, and then I'll git commit -m. What message am I going to use? Of course, you can use any message you deem appropriate. I'm just going to write first commit, and it's committed everything. Then I'm going to do git push, and everything is done. So the next thing I want to go and do now is to go to my, let me clear to make a clean working directory. So you can see the folder I'm in. You can see where we did everything. 0x02 shell redirections. Remember, at the start of this video, I created this directory and seeded into it with just one command. And then I've created all the files, execute everything with just one command, and push everything to GitHub once. At this point, you can now go to your intranet and check all your codes. It should be successful, barring any typographical errors. So except for typos, everything should be successful. Remember, you could always use your other terminal. You could even open your PowerShell or maybe your command prompt, anyone you're using, to just validate if your answers are actually correct using the method we did previously. This is all for our 23 tasks for today. So our 23 mandatory tasks. If you actually followed along everything we did here, and you did really get the idea of what we did. Although it's impossible to cram all the commands, but you did get the idea. Then I think the advanced tasks should not be much of a problem for any of us. However, if we still have problems with it, we can always reach out on our platforms. And remember, you can always search specific commands on Google. You don't want to actually do vague searches. You want to actually be very specific in what you're searching for so that you could get specific answers that would help you. All of this should help us actually beat the deadline for this our first task and make sure that we are not lagging behind. If you've been with me throughout this course over 1 hour, thank you so much for staying. Any questions, suggestions, recommendations, you can always reach me. I'm part of the group on Slack, so you could send me a direct message on Slack. You could also send me a message on WhatsApp. The link to the community on WhatsApp will be in the description down below. So all you have to do is just check down and you could join the WhatsApp group if you're not already there from here. The community tries to help each other as peers so we get the best out of this program, because we can only go far together. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate. And until some other time, when we have our next project, it's a goodbye.